The siren wailed in the distance, piercing the serene afternoon like a knife through silk. I stood on the dock of my private lake, the water lapping gently at the wooden planks, oblivious to the chaos about to unfold. In my hand, a crumpled fine from the HOA, $500 for unauthorized water feature maintenance. Unauthorized? This lake had been in my family for generations, predating their cookie-cutter suburb by decades. But as the police cruiser pulled up, lights flashing, I felt a surge of fury mixed with a secret thrill. Little did they know, I held the ace up my sleeve. I owned the land their precious HOA office sat on, and today I was about to ban them from it forever. My name is Elias Thorne, and I've always been a man who values solitude. Growing up in the shadow of my grandfather's sprawling estate, I learned early on that peace comes at a price. It's a lake. Was my sanctuary a crystalline body of water nestled amid ancient oaks and rolling hills? Far enough from the city to forget the world existed, when developers started carving up the surrounding land into neat little plots 20 years ago, I sold off parcels to fund my grandfather's medical bills, but I kept the lake and a few strategic acres. What I didn't sell outright, I leased with ironclad clauses that gave me ultimate control. HOA, that self-important band of busybodies, had built their community center on one such lease, never bothering to read the fine print. Ignorance is bliss until it is. It started innocently enough, or so I thought. One crisp autumn morning, I noticed a group of suited figures tromping along the edge of my property line. They were from the HOA board. Karen Wilkins, the president with her perpetually pinched expression. Tom Hargrove, the vice president who fancied himself a real estate mogul, and a few others whose names I never cared to learn. They were pointing at my lake, murmuring about environmental concerns and community aesthetics. I waved them off from my porch, but by evening, a notice arrived in my mailbox. Violation. Unauthorized alteration of natural waterways. Fine. $250. Remedy. Cease all personal use and allow HOA inspection. I laughed at first. Alteration? The lake had been there since before their grandparents were born. But laughter turned to irritation when I realized they were serious. I crumpled the paper and tossed it into the fire pit by the lake, watching it curl into ash. That should have been the end of it, but HOA types don't back down easily. They thrive on control, on bending others to their arbitrary rules. The next day, Karen herself showed up at my door, clipboard in hand, demanding access to assess the violation. "Miss Wilkins," I said, leaning against the doorframe with crossed arms. "This lake is private property. It's not part of your jurisdiction." Huffed, her pearls clinking like tiny accusations. "Mr. Thorne, everything in Willow Creek Falls is under HOA oversight. Your ... pond ... is affecting our drainage systems. We've had complaints about mosquitoes and unsightly algae." "It's a lake, not a pond," I corrected, feeling my temper rise. "And the only complaints are from people like you who can't mind their own business." Eyes narrowed. "We'll see about that. Expect another fine if you don't comply." As she stormed off, I felt a knot of anger tighten in my chest. Who were these people to dictate what I did on my own land? I decided to ignore them, focusing instead on my daily routine, fishing at dawn, reading by the water's edge, letting the world fade away. But the fines kept coming: $100 for excessive wildlife attraction, another $300 for failure to submit landscaping plans. They piled up like autumn leaves, each one stoking the fire of my resentment. Suspense built slowly, like storm clouds gathering on the horizon. I started receiving anonymous notes slipped under my door. "Conform or leave. Your lake is an eyesore." Paranoia crept in. Were they watching me? One night I swore I saw flashlights bobbing along the property line. I installed cameras, but they caught nothing conclusive. Emotionally, it was draining. The lake, once my refuge, now felt like a battleground. I confided in my old friend Marcus, a lawyer who'd helped with the original land deals. "Elias," he said over coffee, his brow furrowed, "these HOA folks are pests, but you've got leverage. Remember the lease on their community center? It's up for renewal next month, and the clause?" I nodded, a spark of hope igniting. The lease for the land under their HOA office and clubhouse was mine to control. It stipulated that any breach of good faith harassment, unfounded claims could void it immediately. But I held back, not wanting to escalate yet. Suspense demanded patience. I wanted them to dig their own grave deeper. The turning point came on a sweltering summer afternoon. I'd just finished dredging a shallow spot in the lake to prevent overgrowth. Nothing major, just routine maintenance. As I wiped sweat from my brow, a delegation arrived. Karen, Tom, and two burly enforcers they called compliance officers. They marched onto my dock without invitation, cameras flashing. "Mr. Thorne, this is your final warning," Karen declared, her voice shrill. "Cease this illegal activity or face eviction proceedings." Eviction? From my own land? The audacity boiled my blood. "Get off my property," I growled, stepping forward. Tom smirked, pulling out his phone. "Or what?" "We're calling the authorities. This is trespassing on community resources." Trespassing. The irony was delicious, but my heart raced with a mix of rage and anticipation. As Tom dialed 911 reporting a hostile resident endangering public safety, I felt the suspense peak. Sirens approached and two officers pulled up, looking bemused. Officers Karen rushed forward. "This man is violating HOA codes and refusing to comply. He's a threat." The lead officer, a grizzled veteran named Ramirez, eyed me. "Sir, what's going on here?" I took a deep breath, channeling calm amid the storm. "These people are trespassing on my private lake. They've been harassing me with bogus fines." Ramirez turned to Karen. "Ma'am, is this property under HOA control?" "Of course," she snapped. "Willow Creek Falls owns all adjacent waterways." When I pulled out my ace from my pocket, I produced a folded document, the original deed and lease agreements. "Actually, officers, the lake is mine. And interestingly, the land their HOA office sits on, it's leased from me. Clause 1 for B. Any harassment voids the lease." The color drained from Karen's face. Tom stuttered. "That's preposterous. We've been here for years." Ramirez scanned the papers, his partner nodding. "Looks legit, ma'am. Sir, you might want to verify this." As the officers mediated, I felt a rush of vindication. But suspense lingered. Would they back down? Karen, red-faced, demanded proof. I invited everyone to my study, where I laid out maps, deeds, and historical records the HOA had built on. Lease land, assuming perpetuity. But the fine print gave me revocation rights for misconduct. "You're bluffing," Tom accused, but his voice wavered. I smiled coldly. "Call your lawyers, but effective immediately, the lease is terminated. You have 30 days to vacate." The emotional high was intoxicating, years of quiet resentment erupting into sweet revenge. Karen exploded. "You can't do this. We'll sue." "Try it," I replied. "But remember, I own the ground under your feet." The officers escorted them off, warning against further trespass. As their cars retreated, I stood by the lake, heart pounding. Oh. But the story wasn't over. Suspense demanded twists. That night, under a starlit sky, I pondered the fallout. Banning the HOA meant displacing their operations, but it was justice. Emotionally, it was cathartic reclaiming my peace. Yet doubt crept in. Was I too harsh? No, they started it. The next morning brought escalation. A lawyer's letter arrived, threatening litigation. Unlawful eviction, it claimed. I forwarded it to Marcus, who laughed. "They have no case. The lease is clear." Suspense built as rumors spread through Willow Creek Falls. Neighbors whispered about the lake tyrant, some siding with me, others against. One evening, a group of residents picketed my gate, signs reading, "Save our community center." I addressed them from my porch. "Your HOA harassed me. They fined me for my own lake. Now they pay the price." A young mother stepped forward, eyes pleading. "But where will we hold meetings?" "Kids' events." Guilt tugged at me, but resolve held. "Build elsewhere. Not on my land." As days passed, tension mounted. Karen rallied supporters, petitioning local government. I attended a town hall, heart racing to defend my rights. "This isn't about community," I argued. "It's about bullies." Overstepping, the crowd murmured, divided. Suspense peaked when the mayor sided with facts. Deeds don't lie. Back home, emotion overwhelmed me, pride in standing firm, sorrow for the collateral, but then a breakthrough. A faction of residents approached, disillusioned with the HOA. "We've wanted reform," their leader said. "Help us dissolve it." Intrigued, I listened. Together, we uncovered financial mismanagement, dues funneled to personal perks. Suspense turned investigative. We pored over records, building a case. The climax unfolded at an emergency HOA meeting, held in a rented hall since their center was off limits. Karen presided, defiant. "Thorne is the enemy." I entered, uninvited documents in hand. "Actually, you're the thieves." Gasps echoed as I revealed evidence. Embezzlement, forged signatures. Tom bolted, but police tipped, off-waited outside. Karen's empire crumbled. Arrests followed, the HOA dissolved. In the aftermath, I offered to lease the land to a new resident-led. Group fair terms, no tyranny. Peace returned to my lake. As I fished at dawn, emotion swelled, triumph, relief. The hook that started it, all the sirens' wail faded into memory. I'd banned the HOA, but gained something greater. True community.